So now that you have learned that our statement of the problem served as the map or compass of our study that will provide us such directions, okay, we will now proceed to the different guidelines on how you can formulate your statement of the problem. So how can we write or how can we formulate the statement of the problem? So remember class, whenever we try to conduct a study, okay, whenever we try to conduct in a study, it first, let's say, it is actually a product of our curiosity. And our study as a product of a curiosity means that it is a product of our questions. Okay? So, if I were to ask you, class, which will come first, the question or the study? Okay, obviously, class, you will first ask questions before you can formulate a study. Therefore, class, the statement of the problem should be formulated first before conducting your research. Okay, and that will be our first guideline. So, before we conduct our study, it is important for us to remember that we should formulate first our research questions or our statement of the problem. Okay? So, what is the importance? Why is it that we need to formulate first our statement of the problem before conducting our research? Okay, so let's have our importance, why we should formulate first our statement of the problem before conducting research. So we have two importances, two significance. So the first one, okay, just like we presented earlier, it is important for us to formulate the statement of the problem before conducting the study because it will provide direction to the researcher. Okay? The statement of the problem will provide direction to the course of study of the researcher. It will serve as a guide on how the researcher will conduct their study. Okay? It is their guide on how they will conduct their study. So that is the first importance. So likewise, class, the importance of the statement of the problem can be compared to a mountaineer. So remember, the mountaineer's ultimate goal, okay, their ultimate goal is to reach the peak or the summit of the mountain. Okay? Okay, their goal is to reach the summit of the mountain. So with this analogy class, we can say the researcher, okay, just like the mountaineer, the researcher is also aiming to reach their ultimate goal. Okay? And the ultimate goal of the researcher is to actually provide answers to their research questions. So again, just like the mountaineer, the researcher's goal is to provide, or let's say, is to provide answer to their questions. Okay? They must need to attain this ultimate goal so that they can provide answer to their research questions. So this will highlight the second importance of our statement of the problem. So formulating the statement of the problem first before conducting a study will give the researcher a sense of an ultimate goal. Okay? It will give them a sense of motivation to reach their ultimate goal. Okay? And when the researcher successfully provided answers to their statement of the problem, that will be the time that we can say that the researcher already achieved their ultimate goal. Okay? And what is the another term for goal? Okay, another term for goal is objective. Therefore, class, the statement of the problem states our objectives. Okay, so we have here the question. What are the two main parts or objectives of the statement of the problem? Okay, if the statement of the problem serves as the ultimate goal of the researcher, then what are, or let's say, what are the parts of this ultimate goal? So you know this already. So we have general and specific objectives. Okay, so let us try to discuss them one by one, starting with the general objective first. Okay, so we have another question. Usually, how do we write the general objectives of the study? Okay, how do we formulate our general objective? So let us have this example. Okay, so this is our research title: Utilization of Mabolo Gispirus blancoi as an alternative source of ethanol. Okay, and this will be our general objective. The study was conducted to investigate the effectiveness of Mabolo as an alternative source of ethanol. So from this example class, what can you say about our general objective? Is our general objective exactly the same as our research title? Okay, obviously class, our general objective has, let's say, an exactly the same thought as our research title. And with this, we can have our second guideline in writing the statement of the problem. And that is, the general objective is written as an reiteration of the research title. Okay? Reiteration meaning to say they are exactly the same. Okay? They are exactly the same. So when we reiterate or when we reiterate the, let's say, the research title in a general objective, we just try to rephrase the title. Okay? We rephrase the title in a form of sentences. Okay? But how about the specific objectives? How do we write or express the specific objectives? Okay, so actually, this in writing our specific objectives, we have two customary guidelines. Okay, we have two customary guidelines in writing the specific objectives. And whenever we say customary, it means that it depends on the format of the paper. Okay? It depends on the format of the paper given by your institution. Okay? So meaning to say, you will choose between the two customary formats of writing the specific objectives depending on the format given by your institution or given by your school. Okay? So let's try to have the following examples of specific objectives. So we have specifically, the study sought to identify the chemical components present in mabolo fruit, to compare the effectiveness of mabolo fruit as an alternative source of ethanol in terms of flammability and volatility, and to test a significant difference between the effectiveness of mabolo fruit as an alternative source of ethanol to the control group in terms of flammability and volatility. Okay, so notice that we have these highlighted words: to identify, to compare, and to test. Okay, so what did you notice, class? Do they follow a certain format? Okay, do this pair of words follow a certain format? So in our example class, we followed the format to plus the verb. Okay, and this format, to plus verb format, will be known as the infinitive form of the verb. Okay, so our third guideline in writing the statement of the problem is that it is customary for us to write the specific objectives in the infinitive form of the verb. Okay, so meaning to say, you can use this format in writing the specific objectives. And when we say infinitive form of the verb, it means that we follow the format to and the verb. Okay? So that is the infinitive form of the verb. So in your SIP class, this is the one that we use. Okay? We use the to plus verb format because this is the one given by our institution. Okay? So let's try to proceed with the next one. We have specifically the study sought what are the chemical components present in mabolo fruit, how effective is mabolo fruit, and is there a significant difference between the effectiveness of mabolo fruit as an alternative source of ethanol in terms of flammability and volatility. So take note, class, with the highlighted words and the highlighted punctuation marks. We have what, how, and is there, and it ends with a question mark. Okay, so how is the statement of the problem presented here? Okay, so unlike the first customary format, we did not use the to plus verb form. Okay, we did not use this one. Instead, we presented the specific objectives in a form of questions. Okay, that is why class, the statement of the problem is also known the research questions because the specific objectives can be presented as questions. Okay, and with this class, we can formulate the fourth guideline, which is the specific objectives is customary to be written in the interrogative form. Okay, so interrogative form meaning to say we can write the specific objectives in question form. Okay, however, in your SIP, once again, we use the to plus verb. Okay, we do not use the interrogative form. We use the infinitive form of the verb instead. Okay, so that is how we present our specific objectives. But aside from these guidelines, there are still other guidelines to consider in writing our statement of the problem. So let's try to take a look with the next guideline. Okay, so we have here, specifically the study sought to determine. Okay, so what can you notice, class? Okay, as you notice, we use the word, or let's say the infinitive form of the verb to determine repeatedly in every specific objective. Okay, so we used it to determine the chemical components, to determine the effectiveness, to determine the significant difference. If I were to ask you, class, okay, do we have variation, okay, between these specific objectives? Obviously, class, we do not have variation, okay? So, this practice is considered to be wrong, okay? So, let's try to take a look at the next one. We have what, and what. Okay, as you can notice, we use the, let's say, question indicator what repeatedly. Okay, so what did you notice? So is it bland? Okay, obviously, class, it looks bland because it has no variation. Bland meaning to say no variation. So this practice is considered to be a wrong practice in writing the statement of the problem. Therefore, class, our fifth guideline states that we must present our objectives, okay? We must not present our objectives using monotonous single expression, okay? We do not present our specific objectives using monotonous single expression. So whenever we say monotonously presented, class, it means that you are using the same words over and over again throughout your objectives. Okay, there is no variation and that is very wrong. So your objectives must not be presented monotonously. Okay? So why is it important that you should need to vary the words you are trying to show? Okay? So it is important for us to vary the words we use in presenting our objectives so that it can show that the researcher is skillful enough in conducting their study. Okay? If you use single expressions throughout your specific objectives, it only means that you are not skillful enough. Okay? That is why there is a need for you to vary the words you are using in presenting your specific objectives. So let us try to revise our specific objectives. Okay? From to determine, our specific objectives will look like this: to identify, to compare, and to test. Okay? So for the infinitive form of the verb, you can use the following variations. Okay? So as you can see, it looks like, say, different from one another. Okay? It does not look bland. It has variation. It is unique to one another. The specific objectives are unique to one another. So other infinitive form of the verbs you can use to present your specific objectives include to identify, to compare, to test, to ascertain. Okay, you can use to ascertain, you can use to formulate, okay? You can use to assess, and you can use to evaluate, okay? Oh, you can also use to find out, okay? There are numerous infinitive form of the verbs you can use to present your specific objectives. Now, for interrogative form, you can use the following. So we have, okay, we have what? We have how, we have is there, okay, we have why, and etc. Okay, so as you notice, we have variation. It is not presented monotonously. Okay, so that will be the first 5 guidelines in writing the statement of the problem. So for our next video presentation, we will now be discussing the 6th to 9th guidelines.